Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys along with me for my Sunday reset. I've got some things planned that I'm going to be prepping today that I'm pretty excited about. It's actually just making me hungry thinking about them, so I might snack along the way, but I'm going to be prepping some ingredients for the week so that I can just use them to assemble different meals. I am about to make myself a protein coffee, so I'll share that in a second, but if you enjoy this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I like to share these Sunday reset videos to give a little motivation, maybe if you're struggling to get some things done. I know that these aren't always easy for me, but even hearing your guys' comments on them, that they help motivate you and that you also struggle with it, helps me as well, because I don't always have the motivation. Most of the time I don't have the motivation to do all this, but I know how much it helps me throughout the week to have some ingredients prepped, to do some organization around the house and stuff like that. First off, let's just go through what I'm going to be making today. I have some ingredients I need to use up, so that's kind of decided what I'm going to be making. First up, we have so many habaneros from the garden, and I probably won't even use that many of them today because they're pretty spicy, but I'm gonna make a salsa that I might not even be able to handle, but Adam and Trevor will enjoy it. So I'll use some of the habanero peppers. I'll use this can of diced fire roasted tomatoes with green chilies, and I'm just gonna pop everything in the blender. It'll be like a blended restaurant style salsa. I've got some leftover cilantro that I'll use, and then a yellow onion. I'll also add a little salt and probably not lime juice, but I'll see. Usually I don't add lime juice to that one, but when I make pico I do. I'm gonna blend that together, make it into a quick salsa, and that'll just be ready in the fridge to use for bowls or tacos or even just to have as a snack with chips. The next thing that I'm making is going to be pancake bites. I get these boxes of protein pancake and waffle mix from Aldi. To be honest, I just prefer them over Kodiak, and they're cheaper. They are about the same points. I think it's 5 points for both servings for Kodiak and for this one, but I just make the entire box of mix. I'll add in some milk, some vanilla, and some eggs, probably 2 eggs for the box, and then I'm just gonna whisk it together and put it into muffin tins. And I'm going to make some of them just plain, and then some I'm going to add these blueberry chicken sausages that I need to use up, so I'm just gonna chop them up and add little pieces to some of the pancake bites, and then some of them I think I'm going to add some blueberries to as well. Once those are put in the muffin tins, I'm just gonna pop them in the oven and bake them for probably like 15 minutes at 350, and I'm not gonna use liners or anything. I'm just gonna spray them with some nonstick spray. So those will be pancake bites that are just prepped and ready as a quick snack before the gym, after the gym. Sometimes I just need a quick and easy breakfast, or sometimes I use stuff like this for dessert. The next thing that I'm making is something I've honestly just been craving, and that is 2 ingredient dough bagels. I'm going to use 2 cups of this non-fat plain Chobani Greek yogurt, 0 points on Weight Watchers, adds a bunch of protein, and then I'm going to do 2 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'm gonna form those into bagels that are 4 points each. So I just use my food scale, and from that batch I think I'm going to get 8. I need to decide how many points I want each bagel to be, usually around 3 to 4, but I'll divide those up. I'll put a little egg wash on them, and then I'm going to top them with some different seasonings. So I think half I'm going to do with this everything with the bagel seasoning, although I don't know if I have enough. And then I'm gonna use some of this Aldi garlic salt on some of them because I just love this stuff. Then the last thing that I'm prepping, I have a bunch of tomatoes from the garden as well. These are Roma tomatoes, and I'm just gonna slice all of them up with a good amount of basil that I also have from the garden. Let me grab it really quick. So I just went out and grabbed a bunch of fresh basil from the garden as well. I'm gonna chop that up with the tomatoes, and then I just add a little balsamic vinegar to that, as well as some olive oil. So this will add points to the bruschetta, but usually you add some type of oil. And this one, actually my mom just got me this for my birthday. It's garlic, and it's from a local place by us called the Olive Tap. They have some really good olive oil. This will add a lot of garlic flavor, although I will still add a little minced garlic as well. And then I just mix that up, and I'll have a nice bruschetta that we could put on crackers, toast, even fresh sourdough from the market. It is amazing on. I'm gonna have that prepped as well because I've got a good amount of tomatoes and I need to use them up. Then I've got some organization things that I want to get done. Usually I try to do some things in the kitchen while things are baking that I'm prepping. So the bagels are going to have to bake and the pancake bites. So while those are in the oven, I'll probably organize the pantry. It's kind of a mess in there, but it really needs to be done. And then another thing I really want to do today is put on some new nails. So I'll show you guys how I do that, but I'm going to do that at the end because I'd rather let them set and not do all of this stuff right after I put them on. And before I get started with all that, I'm going to make myself my protein coffee. So I've got this glass here with some ice cubes. I just got these glasses off of Amazon and I love them. They're the perfect size for these protein coffees. I can link them in the description, but I put like 6 or 7 ice cubes. Then I've got a Quest salted caramel protein shake, my go-to every single time for years. I actually have this on Amazon subscription as well because I just use them so often, and they've gotten harder to find in stores. Then usually I like to use the Dunkin' cold brew concentrate, but I recently got this one that I just wanted to try out. It is a Starbucks cold brew coffee, and it is a concentrate as well that you just add water to, so it's just like the Dunkin' ones. This one's dark chocolate hazelnut. I did try it yesterday and I like it. It's not anything crazy, but it does have good coffee flavor and it works well with the salted caramel. Let's give it a try. Although I like to let it sit for a minute and let the ice cubes melt because it kind of waters it down. The Quest salted caramel is just so sweet, but it's so good mixed with the coffee. Okay, I really like that. I need some extra caffeine today. I feel like it has a little bit less of a strong coffee flavor like the Dunkin' one, but still super good. Okay, let's get started prepping some ingredients. My cilantro was looking a little wilted. It had been in the fridge for a little bit, but it actually still had great flavor, so it worked well for the salsa. And I love how quick and easy this is to just throw everything into the blender, so I don't chop the onion fully, but just a little bit smaller. I also put gloves on to cut the habanero peppers. I was giving them a quick smell to see how spicy they were, but they definitely had some heat to them. I could tell just by chopping them up. And once I've got the veggies in there, I just set up my blender and pulse it to kind of chop up everything. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I do like to get it a little bit chopped before I add the tomatoes in, just so I don't overblend the tomatoes because I kind of like some chunks. I gave it a smell to see how hot it was and realized I might have added too many peppers, but I was just going to keep going with it. This also helped me decide if I was going to use 1 or 2 cans of tomatoes because usually I use 2. I just didn't think I had enough cilantro and onion, but with how hot it was, I definitely had to. So I ended up also opening a can of Rotel, which is just diced tomatoes with green chilies, and I blended that in as well, and that was the salsa with just a little bit of salt. Once it's blended, I pour it into an airtight container where I will just store it in the fridge, and it's so quick and easy to add to bowls, nachos, or just have as a quick snack with chips. Moving on to the 2-ingredient dough, I wanted to make a double batch so that I could get 8 bagels today, so I start with 2 2/3 cup all-purpose flour. You can use self-rising flour, I just prefer to use the all-purpose with baking powder, so I also add 2 teaspoons of that with some seasonings. Then I add 2 cups of non-fat plain Greek yogurt, and my favorite brand to use is just the Chobani brand, so I put some gloves on and I just mix that together until it forms a dough. I used my food scale to weigh out the entire portion of dough, which came out to 34 ounces total, and I knew I wanted 8 bagels, so I just divided that by 8, meaning that each bagel needed to be 4.25 ounces, so I just divided the dough evenly that way, and then I started to form them into the shape of bagels. I whisk together an egg with a splash of water and then I just brush it onto the bagels to make an egg wash. And I usually just do 2 at a time so that the seasoning sticks well enough before it starts to dry. So I'm doing 4 with everything bagel seasoning. And then the other 4 I wanted to be like a garlic herb, so I used some garlic salt and then a Kinder's garlic parmesan seasoning. And before I started prepping this, I did turn the oven on to preheat it to 400 degrees, so it was perfect timing once I finished these that it was preheated and ready to go. I usually end up baking these for about 7 minutes and then flipping them around, doing another 7 minutes or so, and I just keep them in there until they are golden brown. Moving on to the bruschetta topping, so I've had these tomatoes just staring at me. They've been good from the garden for a couple days now, and they've just got the perfect flavor and juiciness for this, but I start by dicing them up and adding them to a bowl. My basil has also been growing kind of out of control in the garden, so it was nice to use up a good amount of that for this, so I just pick that off and then wash it before I dice it up. I usually like to use a decent amount of minced garlic, but because the oil I was using today was already garlic flavored, I decided to use just a little bit less. But I drizzle in a tablespoon of the oil, a half tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and I just mix that all together until it's combined with some salt. Whenever I prep ahead of time any recipes that use the buttermilk protein pancake mix, I just usually use the whole box because I'm prepping them, so why not do a lot? So to the entire box of buttermilk mix, I added 2 eggs plus a little bit of the egg wash I had left over. I just didn't want to waste it. I also added in a splash of vanilla and then 1.5 cup of fat-free milk and then 2 cups of water. And I usually just add the water in a 1/2 cup at a time. It makes it a little easier to mix and get it to the correct consistency. I'm just using 2 muffin tins for these today, so I spray them with some nonstick olive oil spray. Then I pour the batter into the muffin tin about 2/3 of the way in each one. I was thinking I would just get 24, but I actually had some extra batter after, so I just poured that into a glass baking dish. You'll see in a sec. And I wanted to have the option of some plain ones, so I left 1 muffin tin plain, and then with the other one, I just used some of these chicken blueberry sausages and then some blueberries. The chicken sausages technically add points and the blueberries are 0 points, but you can also get creative with whatever toppings you want to mix in as well. Then this was the leftover batter I had, which was equivalent to about 3 of the pancake bites. I also added the other chicken sausages I had left over to that, and I just baked it with the muffin tins. While the pancakes were baking in the oven, I decided to start tackling the pantry, which I didn't even know where to start. It was honestly just a lot of open boxes that needed to be put in the containers that they have. I have designated containers for the different protein bars and stuff, but here I have just a bunch of boxes that needed to be emptied out. And I forgot to show the pile of boxes at the end, but I did have a big stack of recycling after this because of how much room was just taken up by these boxes. I always try to FIFO the older things first, so I put the newer stuff on the bottom, and then on top I add the bars that have been in there, but we just had a couple in each box that, like I said, were just taking up room, so it felt nice to condense them all into one. I also just got my big order of Mighty Sparks chicken sticks from Amazon. I think there's like 70 or something in the packet, so I needed to just put those into their container. I also have some random sweet options like this biscotti, some of these IQ bars, and then skinny dipped candy that I just put in one. Then this container was just some random crackers that I threw together. I ordered a bigger box of pancake like air puff corn, and I had a bunch of different random flavors that I just added to this, so they were all in one place. After that, I just needed to go through the different snacks that were open. That's pretty much what that entire top shelf was. It was just kind of an unorganized mess, so we clearly need to have some snack mixes soon and go through some of those, but it was much nicer to get this all organized. Okay, I finished up the organizing of the pantry. That was honestly overwhelming because I just didn't even know where to start, and there's just a bunch of open things and stuff that we really need to go through, so we need to stop buying snacks when we go to the store. But anyway, I am just waiting on the last pancakes to get out of the oven, so really quickly I'm going to put on my nails. I get a lot of questions about the nails that I use, and it's always this brand, and more recently it's the FX for the brand. They've got Color FX is like the specific nails that have like the cool shimmer on them. So the brand is Impress. I usually just get these off Amazon now, but they are available at like Walgreens, Target, Walmart, all those places buy the nails. And usually these last me at least a week, sometimes 2, depending on if I have some pop off and I just glue them back on. But what I do is I clean my nails with the alcohol wipe that it comes with. Then I use this glue as well. So it does have sticky on the back of each nail, but what I do is I'll put a little glue on the nail, I peel the sticky off, and then I have the adhesive on there. So it's like double sticky, and that's what helps it last longer. I just line up the nails, they've got numbers on them, so I match them up with my fingers, and I make sure to have that ready before I start gluing and cleaning my nails. But once I set that up, I glue them on, I push it down for like 10 seconds, and then I just keep pressing them as I continue to do all the nails, but that is how I do them. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you. I always make sure to get the nails laid out before I use the alcohol wipe. I like that to be the last thing possible before I put the nails on. It just helps to keep them the cleanest, and it helps them to stay longer then. I do pretty much know which number goes with each nail, so 0 is usually my thumb, 10 is my pinky, My ring finger is always 7, and then sometimes depending on the different shapes that I get from this company, my middle finger will be like a 3 or 4, and my pointer finger is usually a 5. So that's just the order that I have them laid out in right now, and then it's time to use the alcohol wipe. And like I said, this step is so important for helping these nails to actually stick and last longer. Whenever I miss this step or I don't do a really good job cleaning my nails, they just don't last as long, even with the glue. Then I just use the rest of the alcohol wipe to clean off my phone because it always needs it. But then I can get started applying the nails. So I just rip the little plastic piece off, add some glue directly to my nail, and then I press it on. I usually just press down for like 10 to 15 seconds and then I move on to the next nail, but the entire time I'm doing this, I'm just pushing down on all the nails after I do them. You can see what I'm doing here. And I usually just always have a bottle of this nail glue with me just in case a nail pops off. I can pop it back on, or if something happens to the nail, like I mentioned, they do give extras, so sometimes it's not the perfect number that matches up, but usually it works, and these last me for 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, that wraps up my Sunday reset. I've got my nails done, so that's always nice. I've only gone a couple days without them and it always feels so weird. I'm honestly just used to having them on now. And if one does pop off, I usually just use the glue and put another one back on. They also have extras with it, so sometimes I'll have to swap a number that's kind of close, or sometimes it's one that they gave extras of. Going through everything that I prepped, I've got my tower of pancake bites. So I got 24 bites here, but I did also have extra that I made into this little bake, which I would say this was probably like 3 of these. So I need to still enter it into Weight Watchers to see exactly how many points it is, but I'm guessing it's like 2 points for a bite. And then the ones with the chicken sausages might be like 3. But those will be nice to have for the week as a quick and easy breakfast or something before the gym. Sometimes I just crave pancakes, so it's nice to just have that as a side, and they do freeze pretty well. I've also got the salsa here, which there's a good amount, and smells so good. I had Trevor try it first and he said it actually wasn't too spicy, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try probably on a rice bowl or something because that's what my favorite way to use this salsa is, or just with chips. But that is 0 points on Weight Watchers. Then I've got the bruschetta here, so I'm probably gonna toast up some sourdough bread and then put this on it. That's my favorite way to have it. Even with some melted mozzarella would be really good, but I don't think I have any fresh mozzarella left. I did add a tablespoon of olive oil, which makes this 4 points for the whole thing. I'll probably though divide it up into different servings, but this also can go in the fridge. That is my bruschetta. And then I've got my 2-ingredient dough bagels done. So I ended up making 8 bagels, making them each 4 points. I kind of went over the top with the everything seasoning, but look at how good that looks. Every time we go to the bagel shop, that's how they do it. So I really wanted to make sure they had a lot of seasoning on them. And these are just making me hungry right now. But nice and toasty, and I'll just cut them in half, turn them into a bagel breakfast sandwich, or even a lunch sandwich with lunch meat, or sometimes I just spread a Laughing Cow wedge on it. I've really been enjoying chopping up some chives from the garden and mixing it with a Laughing Cow and using that as like a cream cheese spread with some scrambled eggs, which are 0 points. And yeah, I just really like having these prepped. I usually just pop them in the fridge. You can freeze them, but we go through them quick enough that I just pop them in the fridge. So that wraps up everything that I prepped, and it always feels good to have this stuff ready for the week and just makes it a little bit easier to stay on track, especially when I know points of things and it's stuff I actually look forward to eating, which I love all of these things. I feel good that I made those, got the pantry pretty organized, and got my new nails, and that's gonna wrap up my Sunday reset. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.